Saints fans and Whodats from all over the world. It's time for the Bayou Blitz. With your host, Bob Rose.
Good evening, New Orleans Saints fans, fans of the NFL, and fans of the Bayou Blitz everywhere. I am Bob Rose. I am one of your co-hosts for the Bayou Blitz podcast, and we thank you once again for having us into your homes and over your airways on another Wednesday night. Joining me is my partner in crime, friend, mentor, and confidant in some cases, Mr. Kyle Mosley. How are you tonight, Kyle?
Oh, man, I'm just ready for this Wednesday therapy session that we all need in the Whodat Nation. You know, coming off that game this weekend, it was kind of shaky that first quarter and second quarter, but, you know, these guys were able to pull it out middle of the third quarter because of Mr. Swiss Army Knife himself, Taysom Hill.
Yeah, indeed. New Orleans Saints certainly, they came out almost, let's call it a Dallas Cowboy hangover, and, you know, really struggled through the first and second quarters against Tampa Bay last Sunday, like you said. But they turned it on in the second half a little bit. And there's not a lot of football games, especially at the professional level, where you can say, yeah, the game turned on that play. But I really think that Taysom Hill's blocked punt and just effort getting to the punter in the first place, I think that single play sort of energized the entire team. And, you know, we saw a lot more of the Saints that won 10 games in a row over that final quarter and a half. Still some struggles, still some things that I personally am really concerned about going down the stretch now. But the Saints did indeed notch their 11th win in the last 12 games, and are repeat division champions for the first time in their franchise history.
Isn't that remarkable, man? Just to think of all of the success Drew Brees as well as Sean Payton have had together. This is the first time that these guys have ever repeated. You know, I think of all of the years they've been together and the amount of wins. And, you know, we've had our lulls here and there, but not to repeat, man, that's remarkable. But congratulations, guys.
Yeah, no question. And yeah, not only the Brees and Peyton era, but even the success of Bobby Hebert, Jim Mora, and that Down Patrol defense. I know we had the pesky, irritating San Francisco 49ers to deal with during that era. But I'll be honest with you, when I was putting together my post-game piece, through Canal Street Chronicles, and I was like, okay, well, how many times have they won the division back-to-back? I'm like, oh my God, this is the first time.
Yeah.
I got to say, I consider myself a pretty good football historian too. But I was more than a little bit surprised.
Yeah.
But certainly well earned by this group, no doubt.
Yeah, I'm just thinking throughout the years, man, and I've seen every Saints season since I was an infant, right? I had no choice with my dad. But we've always had, if we had a successful season, it was always followed up with either Atlanta or the Panthers when we talk about the NFC South, right? Having an equally best season the next year. And either we would stumble from having a couple games that weren't quite there and having to play catch up with those guys, you know. But to do it 2 straight seasons, and the goal this year wasn't just to win the NFC South, but it was to be able to win the Super Bowl. So those are the things that I like to see, and I like what I saw as far as the comeback on Sunday. You know, we talked about it last week, Bob. December is what they remember, and the Saints have really a challenge ahead of them, and we're going to talk about that coming up. And we do have Boo Williams on the line with us.
How are you? How are you tonight, Boo? We are thrilled to welcome former New Orleans Saints tight end, Mr. Boo Williams, certainly a veteran of some of these NFC South wars. How you doing tonight, sir?
Man, I'm doing real good. How you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you, man. You were always one of my favorite tight ends of the Saints.
And you know what? I appreciate it. You know what? I just try to, me personally, I just think that I just try to hold up a standard, man, for a lot of these tight ends that come into the league now, because I can see now that the league has really changed into tight end U, because I think of myself as one of those guys that came through as a pioneer with those hybrid tight ends that you can put out wide or you can put in tight and run those wide receiver routes on safeties and linebackers. So, you know, I'm just happy to come up in an era where I was a pioneer and continue to support these guys that are doing it now.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, you came out of Arkansas. I think you ran a sub 4.8 or sub 4.7 at the combine. So you were extremely athletically gifted, and you said it yourself. You know, you were a challenge. Your skills, your athletic skills, were a challenge for linebackers to match up with your speed and with your physicality. Safeties couldn't match up with you. I mean, you know, like you said, you'd flourish in today's NFL.
If I came up in today's NFL, oh my God, Jesus. And playing in some of these offenses where a lot of these guys get the ball in space, and some of these offenses where guys can run wide open. I tell a lot of people, man, I said if I played in with Sean Payton, how Jimmy Graham had Drew Brees, oh my goodness, there's no telling what my numbers could have been.
Yeah, definitely. Now, you started on as a wide receiver, correct?
Yes, sir. I was first team my senior year. I was first team all SEC. So you know, I ran a 4.6, 4.7 in the 40 at the combine, but when you go back and look at my senior year, I led the nation for the first 6 weeks of the year with 180 yards a game, 185 yards a game for the first 6 weeks.
Wow.
So, oh yeah. So I was doing some real big things at wide receiver, especially at my size. That's why it was kind of, you know, not easy, but at the same time, it was kind of, you know, natural for me to really get open and do certain things because I was so used to doing it against cornerbacks in the SEC.
Now, when you were with the Saints and Jim Haslett was your coach then, you guys had a lot of offensive talent. Deuce McAllister at running back, Joe Horn, Dante Stallworth, Willie Jackson at wide receiver. Tell us what the role of the tight end was on those teams. Was it more of a secondary target, or was it just the sort of thing, hey, whoever gets open for Aaron is going to get the ball? Kind of which was it?
Oh, well, it was kind of fun, you know what I'm saying, playing in that offense, tell you the truth, because, you know, Mike McCarthy, that was Green Bay's coach for, you know, some odd years, he was our coordinator, and he was, you know, basically damn near like our head coach. And, man, this guy, he's, as you know, he's really, really smart, and he knows how to put guys in certain positions for different matchups. And I think, you know, we were coming into that role of whoever just got open and whoever had the best matchup, and that's what we went with. But you know, I can remember one year, Aaron Brooks called me over to his house, and he pops a Heineken open and gives me a Heineken, and he says, "Hey man, I'm going to start coming to you. You need to get open." And I tell you what, from that point on, I went to practice, and I practiced hard as I ever could. And I tell you what, that was the year I was an alternate for the Pro Bowl. So, you know, he really, really inspired me to do some things, and it was just a fun offense to play in, and just getting the ball whenever I could.
Wow. Now, when Aaron approached you and you said you went to practice, what was the, I guess, a couple of things in your game that you noticed that you had to change in order for him to take advantage of your skill set?
Well, it was my knowledge of the playbook, because the West Coast offense, it demands a lot of it's a lot of verbiage, and at the same time you alter your routes according to what the defense gives you. So you have to change some of your routes in mid run, and you had to be on the same page, and that's where I had to get more into the game, was into my playbook. And you know, when I got deeper into my playbook, I was hell to deal with. So that's why I tell a lot of people, you better go look at the numbers, because when you look at the numbers, I average almost 11 yards a catch. You know what that means? You're moving those chains.
Moving the chains. That's good.
Now, Boo, a lot of people have been down on the Saints tight ends over this year, and even dating back to last year, mainly because due to a lack of production, and admittedly, a lot of Saints fans got spoiled by really a once in a generation type of receiving talent in Jimmy Graham. But the three of us know that Graham, while extremely talented, he was really he was not what you were. You were a two-way threat, able to block and receive. Jimmy was more of an outside, bulked up receiver kind of guy. What do you see in the Saints tight ends now?
Well, what I see is not many guys on that roster that play tight end that can create matchup problems. And that's what the Saints offense is really based upon, is the matchup. Because when you look across the board, Drew Brees is one of the smartest guys that's out there, so he's going to try to exploit the best matchup as possible, and he's going to try to go to the weakest link on that defense. And if you had a good tight end that could really get open, that could separate, and that's one thing that I had a little fiddle about Jimmy Graham was, he's a big tight end, so naturally you're going to get open because he's going to throw the ball higher, and because you're taller than most linebackers or safeties that's guarding you. But when it comes to route running and separation, he never really could get that. So that's why he could never get over that hump when it comes to the playoffs and do certain times, because when you put somebody directly on him, it's hard for him to get open. And that's what I see with some of these tight ends with the Saints. It's hard for them to get open. So if you could get open, Drew's going to find you.
Well, based upon the announcement today, the Saints cut wide receiver Brandon Marshall, but they picked up off of waivers the Colts' old tight end Eric Swoop. Have you ever noticed anything about Swoop? Do you think that's one of the things the Saints are trying to bring him in for? Because, look, I mean, he's 6'5", 243, kind of comparable numbers to you in your day.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, when you're coming in at this part in time of the year, it's going to be hard for someone just to come in right now and make an immediate impact, because he has to come in, has to learn the offense, learn the verbiage, learn what Drew likes, learn what Drew doesn't like, and at the same time, try to focus on the task at hand. So it's a lot that he's going to have to do when he comes over. So I don't expect him to make an immediate impact, but somewhere farther down the line, I expect to. But I know one thing: if he's a matchup problem, Drew Brees is going to make sure that the Saints get in the best offense possible so he can get the ball to the correct person.
Wow. I mean, that's a good point, Bob, and I never really thought about that, Boo. Maybe they are kind of grooming him for the playoffs.
Yes. I mean, if I was the Saints, I would do that as well. And at the same time, if I was them, I would put one of the best players on that team at tight end, and that is, what's number 7's name?
Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill. I would put him at tight end and let him be a matchup problem for everyone. But I know this is how football goes, because they see something in Taysom Hill that they don't want nobody else to get him, because they showcase too much. Somebody's going to come and get it. So they have to keep his value kind of low right now, so they have the upper hand and have him feeling like he wants to be at home and wants to stay home. but that boy is one of the best offensive players on that team. He's just not playing at the right spot.
Wow.
He's all over the field. See, he's all over the field instead of being special at one position. And if he was at one position, he'll be special because he can do everything good. Let him do something. Let him concentrate and focus on one thing, and I promise you, you'll see something really special out of that boy.
I mean, that's a great point, Bob and Boo.
Yeah.
Think about if he was at tight end, he is a matchup problem for a safety or a linebacker, correct?
Yeah, he's a serious problem. But that is the thing, and I don't know why they would go out and get another tight end when you got the tight end that's right there. And one thing you don't have to worry about him being is physical. You don't have to worry about it. So therefore, you get everything wrapped up in one. So I promise you, if they was to ever put him in the tight end position, he is a match-up problem, especially in the red zone.
And you could really see that coming, too. I think all three of us are in agreement that this young man is not an NFL quarterback. But he is one hell of an athlete. Like you said, Boo, he's a matchup problem wherever they line him up onto the field. So you could almost see them grooming him for like an H-back or a hybrid tight end sort of role. I personally would like to see it. I think the coaching staff needs to be given credit. A lot of teams throughout the NFL would have tried Taysom at quarterback like the Saints did this season, and then once they saw that he just didn't fit into their plans as a quarterback, they probably would have cut him and moved on from him. So you got to give Sean Payton and Pete Carmichael all the credit in the world for sticking with him and trying to find a place for him.
Oh yeah, you got to give them all the credit in the world, and that's what Sean Payton does. He finds guys that no one wants, that not like free agent guys, and he puts them in the best position because I played in this league and I came into the league as a free agent, and I can tell you like this: not everybody that play in the NFL is supposed to be there because they got a bunch of other guys that are way better than some of the guys that's there. It's just some of those guys didn't have those opportunities, and some of the guys you're like, man, how are you playing here? But at the same time, you never want to question what the team is doing, but that they have other guys that's out there that can play ball too.
And we know you came in as an undrafted free agent. And that's something that I've been meaning to ask you, as we've been chatting privately. You came out of Arkansas with some wonderful measurables. You played in a really deep and talented offense when you were there with the Razorbacks. How in the world did someone with your talents go undrafted?
You know what? I have no idea, but I can tell you it was one of the best things that probably happened to me because it gave me a even bigger chip on my shoulder when I got to camp. I tell everyone that I trained in New Orleans with Mackie Shieldstone for the draft.
Oh, really?
That's why in New Orleans. Yeah, and with me, I'm kind of a guy that, I watch football. I love football, but my pro football was Florida State, Florida, Miami. My pro team growing up was the Giants because my grandmother got me a Giants helmet. But I really didn't know, I'll tell you the truth, I really didn't know that the New Orleans had a team, even though I trained there. So when they picked me up as a free agent, I was in awe. I was like, they had a team there the whole time? I didn't know.
Well, we think for a couple years they took the year off, but that's beside the point.
My point exactly. So, and I got there. It was Jim Hass's second or third year, and I got to camp, and I came with a chip on my shoulder of no one could stop me. So when I went to practice, I had the same attitude as if I was at Arkansas, if I was at my high school, and I was talking plenty of smack. And, the defensive linebacker coach, Winston Moss, which is the linebacker coach for Green Bay Packers.
Well, he just got fired.
Yeah, he just got fired.
Yeah.
And he was like, who is this rookie? Shut this rookie up. But me being me, I was like, you better get somebody over here to cover me. And that type of confidence is which, kind of kept me in the league, because you see so many guys that could play the sport, but, once that confidence leaves them, that's the thing that, kills them of making the team. So I made sure that my confidence level stayed high so I could make the team.
You were so passionate on the field as well. I recall a couple of times you just running over a couple of guys, man, and you getting up and just energizing the whole Superdome.
Yes, and that's how I love to play, and that's how I think football should be played at a high level, but play with excitement. Because when you play with excitement, you not only energize yourself, but you energize your team. You energize the sideline. You energize the fans, and that energy is contagious.
Yeah.
So that's why I was glad to play on the team, man. I could tell a lot of people I played in a big time huddle, man, with Joe Horn, Dante Starworth, Deuce McAllister, Kyle Turley. I mean, I played in a huddle with some really, really good guys, man, and I thank God every day that He gave me that opportunity to showcase what I could do, and with that, He gave me another platform to do what I'm doing now, and that's just to help as many people as I can.
Yeah, and that's a great segue too, and it's one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on this show, especially in the holiday season. I know you've been really heavily involved in numerous charities, since you retired from football. Do you mind telling our listeners about some of those?
Oh yeah. First of all, I just want to tell everyone, thank you for the support that everybody's been giving me. It's really been lots of love. And I'm just doing my job on trying to, do my part on this planet before I leave here, because, you want to be, looked at in a certain way when you leave here. So therefore your kids and your family will take on that legacy too. So, what I have going on is I have a medical cannabis company, and we manufacture CBD products, and it's, my company name is called Boo Berry. And that's BOOBEARY, spelled like a bear, because everybody called me Boo Bear. So my brand is called Boo Berry, and we're doing some great things across the country. We're in about 10 to 12 stores right now, wholesaling CBD products. So we're manufacturing and distributing a lot of great medicine across the country. I'm in pharmacies across the country. Matter of fact, one to name, Tallahassee, Florida, that we are in providing medication for their patients. And I also have a 501c3 nonprofit off of my brand called Boo Berry Cares, and that's with a K. And what we do is we do a lot of caregiving around the country. We stop at children's hospitals, homeless shelters, Salvation Armies, and what we've done recently is jumping into action and helping out in the disaster relief efforts here in Panama City Beach, Florida, from Hurricane Michael. So we're trying to do a lot of things with our platform to bring a lot of notoriety on this issue of the hurricane, because the mainstream media has forgotten about us. So we're just trying to do our part, man, here, and trying to help as many people as we can and use our platform for the good.
Oh, and we're happy to provide one. I know you and I earlier today just finally intersected on Facebook as well. And we, Kyle and I added you into our Bayou Blitz group. We encourage you, anything you have going on, post links for it for our viewers, for our viewers and our members in the group. The group does seem to be heavily involved in that kind of thing, reaching out, supporting, sharing opportunities. So by all means, we're honored to be a platform for that kind of thing.
Oh, I really appreciate it, man. I really appreciate it, because we need lots of help here. I went through Katrina, so I know how that is, and this is right up there on that magnitude, or even worse than Katrina, because it's a lot of people here homeless. We're going out this weekend, matter of fact, to go deliver supplies, food, blankets, coats, you name it, because there's thousands of people that's living in tents out here. And they have 3 locations of Tent City where there's thousands of people living in tents.
Wow.
So it's really, really bad here. And the government and the mainstream media is not showing things. So that's why I've been taking people on tours through my social media to show people really what's going on down here, and that we're still in a state of emergency, still need help, as much as help as possible.
Why do you think the response has been so slow?
I can't even tell you, man. I think because the fires happened shortly after that in California, and which kind of like drowned us out, and then you had all the election stuff that was going on. So a lot of stuff we got drowned out here, and it's a shame that lots of people that's on my social media say that they didn't even know that it was a hurricane this bad here until they looked on my page. And so that's why I'm trying to keep people informed, keep people involved, keep people donating, because like I said, our 501c3, we're taking monetary donations, we're taking supplies, we're taking everything because the families here need it. So every donation counts, every donation is needed. That's why we're taking the monetary donations, and we're helping putting families back in homes, getting hotels, food, clothes, whatever you name it. That's what we're helping. So if you want to, donate to our 501c3, all you got to do is go to our page, our Blueberry Cares Facebook page, or you can donate to our 501c3 by it's blueberrycares@gmail. So we're really, really trying to help as many people as we can.
And there is a website
God bless
as
you
well,
for doing
Boo.
that too.
I'm sorry.
Oh man,
there is a website as well, Boo. I know you said the Facebook page, but is there a website or a GoFundMe page or something to that nature?
Well, if you just type up Blueberry Cares, and that's BOOBEARY, and Cares with the K, KARES.
Right.
And I tell people it's really easy. All you got to do is Google it, and it's the first thing that pops up on Google. And all you got to do is click the link, and you can donate. Like I said, it's really been an honor to supply the city of Panama City with all the things that we're doing. So I'm just trying to bring many people as possible to get so much attention on this, because a lot of people have forgotten about us, man. So I really thank you guys for helping me get this platform so we can help as many people as possible. So appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, so go to Blueberry Cares, guys, and we're going to post it in our Facebook page as well as on @Saints News on Twitter and on Facebook as well. Boo, connect with us on Saints News as well, so we can be able to help push the word out more for you. We got over 27,000 followers, so okay.
Oh, appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. And they can also go to our products page too. It's blueberryproducts.com, and with every purchase, 5% of all proceeds go back into the foundation, which is to help restoring families of the Panhandle.
Awesome.
And I think, Boo, you mentioned it right at the beginning of the promo. I think in this day and age, there's just so much accessibility to so many different things that, frankly, the average person's attention span moves on too quickly, and it takes effort. And Kyle, you guys went through that. Thankfully you weren't hit directly, but the Houston area, when they got hit really hard last year, a week later the news was on to something else. So I think, at least in my opinion, it takes the individual standing on the proverbial soapbox, just reminding people, hey, these people still need help. This didn't go away just because a different news headline is out there. Yeah,
and that's what we're trying to help do, because it seems like that has happened. So that's why I think God put me in a position here in Panama City to be able to help as much as I can. even though I'm not from here, I'm from Tallahassee, Florida, about 2 hours down farther south, but I reside here. And like I said, man, it's just been total devastation here, total devastation. So if you can help out, all the listening, if you can help out anywhere you can, I tell everybody, we're taking diapers, we're taking, blankets, sheets, even $1, $2, $3 help, because if you go through our pages, we'll take you through and show you that it's very, very much needed here.
Okay, we will promote that, Boo. Now, let's go back to football, guys. Let's talk a little bit about what the Saints went through on Sunday. Boo, earlier, Bob and I were talking, and it seemed like the Saints had like a little hangover from that Dallas loss, especially that first half of the Tampa Bay game. What have you been through situations like that when, as a football player, when you guys were favored to win the game, but you just didn't start the game off as well?
Yes, and I think that that Dallas loss, that slap in the mouth, is what they needed, because if you pay attention to the teams that's been there a lot, like the Patriots, they're in the locker room, they have a good time, but at the same time, they know that it's not over. They know that they got more work to do. So, I pay attention to the Twitter posts where the guys be in the locker room, they have a good time, they cut up, that's all fine and dandy. But at the same time, you got to keep that focus and know that it's not over, that you still got work to do. And you're going to have every team's best every week, every weekend, because of, you're the top in the NFC. So you're going to get everybody's best. And if you don't stay focused and on the task at hand, you'll get beat by a lesser team that you're supposed to beat.
Right. I noticed that as well. And remember, Bob, I was telling you, man, when I looked at Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara, and I think it was Mike Thomas during the game when they were beating up on the Eagles, they were dancing and having a good time, right? On the sideline.
On the sideline. Yes, you don't do that. You don't do that. That's something that I looked at the whole time too, to where it feels like you're feeling yourself.
Right.
And you can't feel yourself in the lead because it can go sideways really, really fast for you. And then people are looking at you now like, what was all that bragging and boasting you was doing now?
Right.
See, that's what I mean. You don't see a Tom Brady team doing that. You don't see a Mike Tomlin team doing that. You don't see some of these teams doing that. It's a way to have fun, but at the same time, it's a way to show respect too.
True.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And a lot of us, this team has had so much success and looks so dominant at times, not only this year but last year. But this is still a group largely made up of third and fourth year players or younger. So they're extremely young as a team outside of your leaders like Drew and Mark and Cam Jordan. So I agree with you guys. I chalk it up to a learning experience, but I'll tell you what, the way they came out against Tampa Bay, it did look like they were still seeing stars from that slap in the mouth that Dallas gave them the week before.
Oh yeah, and I've been a part of a year where we started out 7-1 and slapped in the mouth, and then after the we had a break. We had a break, an off week, and then we came back and lost 6 in a row.
6 in a row.
We came back and lost 6 in a row. Yes. Remember that year Dante Stallworth was winning every game for us in the last minute?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was either 2002 or 2003. I don't remember which of the two.
2003. Dante won 5 games for us at the end. He won 5 for us. And therefore, we got slapped in the mouth by Atlanta, by Michael Vick, and then we came back and had an off week, and then we lost every game but one. So
and when you feel things... Go ahead, son.
I said, well, it can happen really, really fast. But, with this team, these guys love each other. These guys play together. And that's one thing that you can see on the sideline. And when you got guys that are playing for each other, guys that really don't care about who gets the credit, your team is going to go a long way. And that starts from the quarterback. And, Drew, he's one of those guys. He's a good leader. He knows how to keep that team even keeled. It goes as he goes. And, like I said, there's nothing wrong with having fun because God knows, everybody know me. I was the dancing fool. I was the dancing fool. I love to have a good time. I'm playing. And that's how certain players are. They feed off of things like that, and you just got to go out there and be who you are. But at the same time, you got to keep the focus and the task at hand and knowing that, the Super Bowl is the ultimate goal and we haven't made it there yet.
Right. Guys, the Saints have their third straight road game coming up this weekend. Another primetime showdown on Monday night against the division rival Carolina Panthers. Now, I've always said that everybody knows about Saints Falcons. All us old guys know about Saints 49ers. But Saints Panthers is as bitter and physical as they come. And, Boo, you took on those guys in a few of those tangles. Are the games really as physical on the field as what we see on the TV?
Oh, yeah. It's really physical. And playing at this time of the year for especially Carolina that's fighting for their lives right now, it's very important that the Saints don't take these guys lightly and go in to take these guys out early because you don't want to go into the playoffs and go deep in, at the end of the season with a couple losses, and that drags you into the playoffs, and next thing you know, you're out after the first round. Mm-hmm. So, you want to make sure that you come in and take care of these guys because they do have some weapons. They got, ultimately, you already know they got Cam Newton. You know what he's going to bring to the table. But at the same time, they got that little guy named McCaffrey, and he is a game changer. He is going to get the ball in multiple ways, and they're going to try to exploit the matchup. And that's what they're all about, is exploiting the matchup. And at the same time, you got to stop that big horse named Cam Newton. And on the outside, I think the Carolina Panthers have the matchups on the outside to test the Saints because they have those big wide receivers. They have punches. He's been doing some good things for them this year. And, if you don't take care of Cam Newton, get to him, get him rattled, get him throwing interceptions, if you get Cam into that mode of he's smiling, he's dabbing, he's doing his little shimmy, it's going to be a long night.
It usually is when Cam gets on a roll. That is the one thing about at least this era of Saints Panthers is you can tell pretty early on how much success the Saints defense is going to have. Usually by mid, even end of the first quarter, because Boo, you said it, when Cam gets his groove going, he just has that bounce in his step, and you can tell it's going to be a long day. But if that defense, if that Saints front four and front seven can get to him, can knock him around a little bit and frustrate him, get him off his mark accuracy-wise, I think that they could play well. Now on the other side of the ball, though, and again, when you guys played the Panthers, it seems like the Panthers have always had a very big, physical, and athletic front four and linebacking core. This team is no different. How do the Saints contend? How did you guys contend with the Carolina then, and how are the Saints offense going to do something similar now?
Well, you had to keep them off. They always had, like you said, they always had a good front four, and that front four could apply pressure. And when you got a front four that can apply pressure, and you don't have to bring your linebackers to blitz, you basically can do some special things on defense and hold a team's offense to little points. But if the Saints' offensive line can block those front four guys up front, Drew Brees can get that play action going, get those guys going to one way, and he's more accurate than anybody. So if he can get those guys going to one way and get those linebackers flowing, I think, the Saints going to have a good day, but at the same time, you can't forget that they have two of the smartest linebackers in the game, and Kuechly and then Mr. Thomas over there, as they call him. Yeah. So these guys really got a good defense, but the Saints are going to really have to, keep exploiting some of those matchups and playing chess when the Panthers think it's checkers.
Do you believe the Panthers, because I know they have been on a losing streak, and this is a highly important game to them, do you think one of the keys for them to lose, that has been causing them to lose, is the absence of Greg Olsen?
Yes, because he was that safety net. He was that matchup problem, because not everyone has a linebacker or a safety that can cover all three downs. And it was not easier, but it was something for Cam to go through, because he knew that on certain plays where he had a matchup and where he will look for Greg Olsen to get open. But now he doesn't have him, so now he's got to rely more on his outside receivers. And I can tell you more than anybody can. A tight end is a quarterback's best friend. I remember plenty of times breaking that huddle and Aaron Brooks giving me that look and saying, "Boo, get open." Because I know he knows on this play what's going to happen because of the statistics. They're going to bring a blitz. They're going to go in this type of defense. And he'll look at you while you're breaking the huddle and say, "Get open." And that means, hey, I know if they blitz, I'm the one that he's throwing it to, so I got to be his best friend. So that's one thing that he's missing, is that inside tight end presence, go on that inside and do his hooks and curls and outs and, just to be a threat in the red zone.
Now, let me ask you something from a schematic point. On your team, you had yourself as the leading tight end, as the number one tight end, but you also had Deuce McAllister coming out of the backfield, who was an underrated receiver in his time. And I can't imagine it happened very often, because your offensive tackles were, after all, Willie Roaf and Kyle Turley. So there wasn't too many people getting the best of them. But when they were nicked up, or when they would struggle a little bit, which direction would your offense? I mean, as analysts, we sit here and someone like Jermon Bushrod, for example, the last couple of weeks has struggled a little bit, especially in pass protection. So as analysts, we sit here and say, well, his solution is easy. You either keep a tight end in the block and help him out on that side, or you use a back to chip. Sometimes both. Which strategy handcuffs an offense more, though? Using your back to chip or keeping your tight end in to help?
Well, you got to mix it up. You got to mixture of both. And when you got the Saints offense, they put so many guys in motion, so many guys in the backfield. You get a guy on a misdirection to where you're not rolling to his side, but you might misdirection to his side, but roll the other way to help him get a better position. But, yes, you definitely want to come up and chip with that running back. But the way defenses are designed today, where they see that running back come up and he stopped, and he gets ready to chip, you see that other linebacker, he is coming, because he's taught to, if that running back freezes to chip, somebody else is going to pick him up, and he's going to go. So it's some things that, you can do to help him out, but I think the best thing personally is to chip, because you want to get that tight end out and pass in the pass more than you want to do that running back.
Do you see anything from the Saints offense that really concerns you down the stretch? They have struggled in the last couple of games. They're not real deep in, you pointed out yourself, they're not real deep in their receiving production outside of Thomas, Kamara. Do any of those things concern you going into the playoffs?
Well, the thing that really concerns me is we all know the running game is really what's going to get the Saints to the Super Bowl. It's not the pass. Mm-hmm. Because once you get deep into the playoffs, that's when you come to teams that really have good defense, offense in the pass and in the run. So the Saints are going to have to get a little bit better back at the run like they did in the beginning of the year, because as Kamara goes, that's when Ingram goes. Ingram is a good back. He's strong. He makes those power runs. But at the same time, I've noticed if Kamara's not on, he's not on. So it's going to be very important that the Saints get that running game back together, get some of those zone runs, get some of those misdirections, get Kamara out in space on those screens. I want Sean Payton to go back to the screen game like he was with Pierre Thomas. Remember, Pierre Thomas was one of the best screen runners that the game has ever even seen. So I think if the Saints get that running game going, get those backs out in screens, that's really going to help them, propel them, into the Super Bowl maybe.
Is it more a matter of play calling or the play setup, or is it the blocking up front that's causing the running game to struggle?
Well, it's the game in the trenches, and it all starts up front. If the big boys ain't blocking, ain't nothing going to happen, ain't nothing going to move. Nothing Drew Brees can do, or there's nothing Kamara can do. So it's going to be on the offensive coordinator to really have a feel for the game and to really make sure that the game is a game of chess, because as it gets to the end of the season, into the playoffs, and into the Super Bowl, it's a game of chess, and it stops being checkers. So it's going to be on the offensive coordinator to really get some plays going to where his offensive line can be dominant in that running game often and early.
Now, Mark Ingram, last week he rushed for his 49th career touchdown. He tied himself with Deuce McAllister for the franchise's all-time lead. And if he has a nice 3-game stretch to end the season, he may pass Deuce for the all-time rushing yards leader too. And Deuce is one of the most beloved figures in all of Saints history, and rightfully so. He was a terrific running back, good guy. He seemed like a great guy on and off the field. Mark is always, let's call it for what it is. He gets some disdain and some disrespect from some Saints fans. I don't know whether you see the same thing, but would you put Ingram up in the caliber of one of the best backs in Saints history?
No, I wouldn't. I definitely wouldn't, because Deuce McAllister is a back that did it all. He did it in the pass, he did it in the run, and he also did it in the pass blocking. He was a guy that for 10 straight weeks, I got this in my memory bank, he ran for 100 straight yards. 100 straight yards in 10 straight weeks. He was a guy that would jump from the 5-yard line to get in that end zone, and he was a very, very, very smart player. Now, Ingram, he's a guy that, he had a couple stretches of years where he was iffy. You didn't know if they was going to bring him back, but he kind of submerged when they brought Kamara back. And, the game has changed from when Deuce and Ingram played. And I can tell you from experience in playing in both eras, Deuce McAllister had a very harder time gaining all of his yards more than, Mark Ingram. And everyone knows on first down in the stadium who was getting the ball. Am I correct?
Yeah. Definitely.
Everybody knew every game who was getting the ball because they was yelling his name, Deuce.
Yeah.
And teams would know that, but you just had to stop it. I haven't seen that since Deuce left.
Yeah. Deuce was so steady, and so he was just a great consistent presence to have in that backfield. I know Aaron could depend on him, and early on Drew did as well before that injury. When you look at what's happening now with teams that utilize tight ends and H-backs and specialty gadget players like Taysom Hill and, guys like McCaffrey and Alvin Kamara. Do you believe with the talent that you guys had back then, if y'all had one of those type of guys complimenting Deuce, you would have been a lot further along going to the Super Bowl versus just going to the playoffs?
Yeah. And we had a guy that was ahead of his time that played quarterback for us. His last name was Woodbury. And when I tell you this guy could play every position, and he was like Taysom Hill. He could play cornerback. He could play strong safety. He played quarterback, which is his regular position. And he was ahead of his time, but he just had, as I was told when I first got in the league, you had too much money in front of you. And when you got and when you got people that's making those dollars, they have to play, no matter if you're better than them or not. So it's a thing of if we'd have had one of those guys that could really do things of that nature, and I think we could have really went over the top. But it was a thing of putting it all together, offense, defense, special teams, putting it all together because, we had a good special teams with Michael Lewis, the beer man. And I can remember we were the top-rated special teams in the league for a couple years because of Michael Lewis and John Carney. So, it's just a thing of putting it all together as a team, which is that can, prepare your team to go farther and deep. But I can say I really played with a bunch of different athletes, man, that could really bust it wide open. And especially from a guy like Joe Horn, he was one of the best to ever do it. And, I'm just so happy to be able to play. Say I played with those guys.
Do you have a chance to be able to talk with Joe or Aaron from time to time?
Man, I talk to Joe Horn every other day. I talk to Aaron Brooks every other day. Like I said, Joe Horn, I met Joe Horn when I was in junior college in Coffeyville, Kansas. And Joe Horn played with the Kansas City Chiefs. My cousin goes by the name of Tamarick Vanover, which played for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Yes. And Joe Horn was an understudy for my cousin, and he, took Joe up under his wing, treated him like a brother, and they're brothers to this day. And then when I joined the Saints, Joe Horn remembered me from junior college, and he took me up under his wing and showed me everything he knew. And to this day, we're just like brothers. And I can say, like I said, it was an honor to be able to be in that huddle with a guy like Joe, because you knew every game that he was coming to play.
Do you see that same thing in Michael Thomas?
Yes, I do. I see that same thing in Michael Thomas, to where this guy's coming to play every game. And what I like about him is he's not just a receiving wide receiver. He loves to block too. And, when you got that combination of a receiver that's tough, that makes your team that much difficult to deal with.
How knee injuries, I do believe a series of them, kind of short-circuited your career. How tough was it for you to make the decision to step away from professional football?
Oh man, it was really tough. It was really tough to step away from the game. But I think that a lot of athletes, that's what we go through after the game. Sometimes, the game leaves you before you're ready. And there's one thing that's going to happen is the game is going to keep going with or without you. And when you get to that level, it's a level of, that's the highest level of football. And, many people are trying to get there, but not too many get there. And when the game leaves you, it's a thing of what do I do now? And that's why it's a lot of guys that go through depression, I went through the depression when I was finished, and 5 years afterwards, I laid on the railroad tracks in 2011 and tried to end my life. But by the grace of God, some homeless people saved me from the railroad tracks, and I went to get myself some help. And when I got myself some help, I turned around and opened up an athletes treatment center for other guys called the Crosby Sports Treatment Center in San Diego, California. And so other guys wouldn't have to go through that depression, go through that feeling alone and, knowing something that's going on with you, but you can't describe it and, going through all these different emotions. So, it's a thing of guys just trying to really find themselves. And I think that the things that I went through after football propelled me to do some of the things that I am doing now and trying to inspire other athletes to find their passion after football, because this game doesn't last long. This game, and the money doesn't last long either. And I tell everyone, not everyone that plays professional football makes millions of dollars.
Right.
So, yeah. So don't get fooled by the TV, because you see guys on TV and think guys are making millions and millions. Not everyone is doing that. So, when these guys are finished playing ball, these guys are regular people. We're regular humans just like you. We just so happen to be blessed to play a sport that most people can't. So, that's the main thing that we deal with, after the game, along with the bodily injuries. We deal with the mental side as well.
Yeah, and like you said, it's more so than even just about the money. It was such a big part, and not just a big part. It was your life from the time that you were probably a little boy. So I would imagine that there's a giant void that you need to fill. Once it ends, whether it's by your choice or whether the decision is out of your hands, it's still a void that's now in your life.
Yes, it's now in your life, and what you've always been a part of is a team. You've always been a part of a team from little league into the pros. You've always had that name on the back of your jersey. So now when you're finished, you're not walking around with that name on the back of your jersey. As years go by, people forget you. You start to fade away. So you got to deal with, what do I do? Who am I? What am I? So that's why you have to, go find yourself. If you haven't, you have to go find yourself and find your niche and find, what you were put on this planet to do. Because if you don't, you're headed down a road of destruction, and that's what we don't want. Is with our athletes that was once one of the best to walk the earth, is to now to be some of the weakest ones to ever walk the earth. So we want to make sure that, when guys are finished, they have the tools in their tool belt to be successful after the game.
Does the NFL help you guys out at any time with that transition? I know when you left the game, it may not be as prevalent. You have all the CTE information that's out there now, but still being an ex-NFL player, have they approached you guys, sent you guys information to try to get help or to help your foundations or what you're doing?
Well, it's a thing, and I'm a country boy, and I'm old school, and it's a thing of if like your grandma would tell you, baby, if I loved you, you wouldn't even have to ask if I love you. You would know if I loved you, correct? So therefore, when you're finished from the game, you know if the game that you play for loves you or not, because it'll show you. And when you have been damaged by a game that you've given your life to, and you had things kept from you that were very helpful for you to know, to where you can make a decision if you wanted to do this with your life or not, and you find out a league is holding that from you, then that's a problem. So when these are concussion lawsuits and all these these lawsuits are out there, and all these guys have these different claims, and if you have done that, And now when it's time for these guys to be compensated because a lot of these guys are really in bad shape, you put stipulations on, when guys are going to get paid. You try to, draw it out so guys don't get paid. So that lets guys know that, you don't love me. You don't care about me. Because if you did, you wouldn't make me keep jumping through these hoops and holes just to be compensated. So something, when I'm dead and gone, I think to be taken care of because of the things that have happened to me inside of your game.
Wow.
Man, it's like not even sure what to say to that. I mean,
it gets deep. It gets deep, man. It gets deep, and that's why, I'm trying to come out with a documentary called Slave to, it's called Slave to the Game. And I got it on my Twitter page, the picture Slave to the Game, and it's a documentary that I'm coming out with. And, when you see the picture, it's a real strong, powerful picture, but it's going deep into the game of, it's a thing of being enslaved in your mind when you're finished with the game because, we've always been taught just to do sports and to get to this goal. So now when you're finished with the sport, what do you do now?
Right.
So most guys, when they're finished, they go back into coaching. They go back into training. They go back into something back into the game because that's what they know most.
Right.
But we want to show guys that, hey, you got other talents. Use your platform to do other talents that these teams have used you for. Because in our contract, you are obligated to do so many personal appearances for that team at a fundraiser or some type of event. So why not, when you're finished with the game, you do the same thing that these teams have used you for, that you like to do, go back in the community, help your community, do all these different things, and put your own twist on it. Because these teams, they use you for doing all of these things. But when it's their time to be finished with the game, they're not going to reach out to you and say, hey, I want your organization to do this, I want your organization to do that. No, they're not. So we got to take it upon ourselves to get outside of the game to find out really what our worth is and what we're capable of doing and do it.
Wow.
And that's just it. I mean, once a player steps away from the game, regardless of what the sport is, if they choose to stay within the sport, like you said, coaching, training, whatever, there's certainly nothing wrong with that. But everybody needs to know that this isn't the end of your life. It's only the end of one chapter of the entire book.
That's it. And football is a small chapter of your life. It's a small window. And I hate when people are talking bad about Le'Veon Bell. They don't know. He's a running back. His window is short. Because when them teams are finished using you up, they don't care about you. They're not going to call you and say, hey, come on back over here and hang out with us. No, they're not. So you have to make as much money as you can and save your body as much as you can. Because if you get hurt, your value goes down through the roof. It goes down through the floor. And now the money that you would have made, you're not going to make it anymore. And you can't make that money nowhere.
Right. And, everybody was saying, well, he's missing out on, was it $18 million or $14 million this year or whatever the number was. But next year was not guaranteed. And like you said, if he would have been injured, that was it. And then
he'd have been like Mr. Thomas. He'd have been like Earl Thomas for the Seattle Seahawks. And now his value has went down through the floor. He's 30 years old. So now, is anybody going to give him a deal that he would have got if he wouldn't have been hurt? No, they're not.
Yeah.
No, they're not.
That's unfortunate. Well, Boo, man,
guys,
we really do appreciate having you on with us. Go ahead, Bob.
Oh, no, I was just I was going to mention to both of you, one of the reasons why I've always loved the New Orleans Saints since the time I was little was because of how close the play on all the best teams anyway, how close the players seem to be with one another. We saw it, and we've talked to a couple people from the Mora years. Boo, we have you on, and you mentioned it a couple of times with your teammates, and we've had a few of your teammates on this show as well. And we also see it from this Saints team now. Just the individuals that really pull together for one another for the greater goal. I realize the ugly business side of it still is out there with the Saints, as is every other team. But the great New Orleans Saints teams, like the ones you guys were on in the early 2000s, they kind of brought us out of the Ditka doldrums. The early Sean Payton teams, these Sean Payton teams, they're just so fun to watch. And I know we have to wrap up here in a couple minutes. But Boo, I want to get your thoughts. How do you see this year's Saints version? How do you see them winding up the season?
I see them going deep into the playoffs, but I can't see them having a game like the game against Dallas, because if they play like that against Dallas, it's going to be a short season for them. And it looked like they were tired. They were off. Camaro, he looks really, really tired. And it's a long season. And sometimes you can't ride, and this is how teams are, they'll ride the wave until it's over. So, Kamara, he's kind of cooled off a little bit, and they was riding him, and you could tell in the Dallas game he just looked really, really tired. And, I see them going deep into the playoffs, but that's one thing that, like you said, the Saints, they always stick close. We always have close, tight teams because we're in the deep South and we're in New Orleans. And, like I know, you can only go down to the city of New Orleans so many times. And so therefore, it's like it's almost like a country town city. So, you're very close with fans and players. They stick close. And then, if you were somewhere like, LA, or you're somewhere like New York, it's a lot to do. So, it's not really a lot to do in New Orleans. So, guys are going to stick close with each other and hang out with each other like they're in a college setting. And that's how it looks. It looks like those guys are having fun together. They love each other. They're in a college setting. So if they keep that type of close-knit group type of mentality, they're going to go far, and they're going to play for each other and play unselfishness. And if they keep doing that, they'll get to the Super Bowl.
Awesome. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, Boo, one last time, tell the people how they can find your work out there on social media.
Man, you can find me on Facebook. All you have to do is type in Boo Williams, Boo Williams. You can find me on Instagram under Boo Berry Products. You can find me also on with our foundation on Facebook. It's under Boo Berry Cares, and that's Beary, Cares with a K, Kares. And and trying to get so many people to help out and donate as much as they can, because the city and the panhandle of Florida really, really needs it more than anything.
Okay, awesome.
Well, and like I said, it's been a privilege to be a platform, and by all means use our Facebook page too. We keep calling ourselves the Bayou Blitz family. We're growing daily, but we mean it too. There's a lot of good communication in that group, and we'd be honored to help out however we can.
Oh man, appreciate it. And anytime you guys need me on the show, y'all know how to find me, man. I'm 24/7 like AAA.
And I tell you what, it's been a lot of fun to get to know you a little bit these last couple of weeks. Like Kyle, I love rooting for you on the football field, so I definitely want to do this again, my friend.
Definitely.
Yes, man. Anytime. Just let me know, man. I'm always here to give everybody that insight, because I know how it is. When there's fans out there listening, they want to know certain things, and us as athletes, we're always in a certain bubble, and that's why I was always one of those athletes that used to be out in the community all the time, out, and people, they always would ask me, "What you doing here?" And I would ask them, "What you here. But I've just always wanted to be that guy that could be relatable, if it was the person at the White House or the bum that's on the street. I can be relatable, and I'm just, like I said, I'm just glad I'm in a position to be able to bring hope, joy, and now to bring products to those that are ill.
Awesome. Well, Boo, thank you so much, man. We really do appreciate you. And, man, you definitely need to come back when we preview the playoffs.
Hey, I'll be here, brother. And that's one thing about me. I'm not like a lot of the Saints reporters that when things are going wrong, they won't tell the real. I'm gonna tell the real if they like it or not.
Well, hey, look, that's what got me in trouble with the organization years ago. So I understand.
And you know what? If the truth is going to stop someone from doing interviews and really, helping with the platform, then you have a problem, because that's what it's all about. The fans, they want the truth, they want the real, and a lot of people think that athletes are robots. So when you have certain athletes that can give it to you real, like Cam Jordan, you got to really take it for what it's worth, because not many athletes come outside that bubble and tell you exactly how they feel.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Well, definitely. Yep. Well, Boo, thank you so much. Saints fans and Who Dats from all over the world. That was Mr. Boo
Who Dat, baby?
Williams, from the Saints. Bob, tell everybody how they can follow you on Facebook, Twitter, and whatever else in the Canal Street world.
Well, folks, I'm so everywhere that I have to be annoying. I annoy myself. I am on Facebook, Bob Rose. Also Twitter, of course. My personal handle is @BobbyR2613. My articles, and I'm doing the best I can to keep them churned out this holiday season. Some stuff going on with the family, but my articles are through the Canal Street Chronicles, found on Facebook or Twitter @Saints CST. And, of course, like we mentioned a couple of times tonight, we do have our outstanding Bayou Blitz Facebook group, one of many terrific Saints discussion groups on Facebook. But we're very proud of this one, because we started this one at the beginning of our show back in spring, and we are now over 1,400 members, and a lot of you folks are active, very helpful and informative with one another, making our former players, our former Saints family and loved ones feel welcome too. So we want to thank you for that.
All right. And this is Kyle T. Mosley of Saints News Network, and you can always check us out at www.saintsnews.net, as well as you can check out Barry Hurstis and his featured articles at www.saintsnewsnetwork.com. And you can follow us on Twitter at Saints News, Instagram at Saints News as well, and on Pinterest and Facebook at Saints News. All right, guys. It was great to have Boo on.
Yes.
Give him some love. Show his foundation some love. Don't forget to also help out Quinn Early and his foundation with their book drive to help eradicate Alzheimer's. And that's a very, very hard disease. It hit my mother as well as my uncle. So let's try to step it up and help our community. All right, Bob, you stay warm, man.
Trying. Just looking forward to this Monday night showdown with the Carolina Kitty Cats. Put them out of our misery and move one step closer to hopefully the number one seed in the NFC playoff picture.
Yeah, definitely. And Saints fans, look, it's going to be a battle. So do not go to the Crescent City Connection and try to jump off in case the Saints do not come home victorious. I think the Saints really need to be able to win this game and put some pressure on the Rams, because, look, Rams have the easiest schedule going down the stretch, Bob, but I still believe they're going to stumble. So,
yeah, me too.
Look, Saints, I know Sean Payton is emphasizing this. Take care of business, and everything will be okay. You take care of one game at a time. All right, guys, let's have a good one. We'll be back on the air next Tuesday, not Wednesday, but Tuesday, same time, same back channel. And Bob, it's been having a pleasure. Tell Lauren and Will I say hello, and we are out. Who dat, baby? Take care. Bye.
Who dat?